Hi friends, this is Krish the Urban Naxal. Friends, there's been a very important development. We had the last of our civil court dates for arguments about the interim relief sought by Runwal. Slightly technical, I'm going to explain it to you as much as possible. And I want you guys to be aware of the nuances of courtroom proceedings. So I'm going to go into some amount of detail about how the whole thing went, how we explained, what the judge looked like, what the judge said. There's a lot of interpretation of body language. Sometimes that can go wrong, but well, that's all part of the game. And I'm going to get a little bit into the politics of courtrooms, by which I mean human interactions within courtrooms. So friends, first and foremost, the update is like this. The interim relief sought by Runwal, which is that 7 videos relating to Devdas Acharya, Rajendra Singh and Alwin Dantas, and also one more video that is included within those 7 videos, which has the people of Runwal, my city, demonstrating on the road saying that they are not getting water. These 7 videos are sought to be deleted from YouTube. That is one of their requests, or that is one of their prayers from the court. The second is we are sought to, they want us to not say anything about Runwal, my city, and not necessarily other Runwal entities, but Runwal, my city and Horizon Projects Pvt Ltd. They basically want a GAG order. Arguments for this went on last week on Friday, and then this week again on Friday, that is 26th August. This week the arguments concluded, so now we are waiting for orders from the court on 13th of September. Will the orders be in our favor? If so, the judge, Mr. VD Kedar, is going to say no injunction, no restrictions. Or it could be on a sort of a grey scale where he might say, well, some limited injunctions are passed. Krish is not to use harsh words, for example, or Krish will always send videos to Runwal for their comments before publishing them. And of course, if he doesn't get any comments from them, then he will not publish. Now, this is a possible kind of an order which could arise from this hearing. Or it could be something like, no further talk. These guys are not going to speak. Krish is not going to speak, etc., etc. Or it could be an order which says, Krish is not allowed to make videos about Horizon projects and Runwal, my city, but Alwin Dantas and Rajendra Singh and these guys can basically talk. They can say something on record, but not on his channel. I mean, all these permutation combinations are possible, and in fact there are other combinations which are also possible. So the plea, their prayer is for temporary injunction, which would be until next hearing, or permanent injunction, which means Krish not to speak. Now, permanent injunction cannot be granted at an interim stage, so I very much doubt that can happen. Suppose temporary injunctions are granted of any nature until next date of hearing. That next date of hearing becomes the next date, and then the next date, and then the next date. So it keeps rolling forward, and the concern is that at some point of time, those hearings stop happening, or they happen at lesser and lesser intervals, or rather greater and greater intervals, so that the next hearing happens after 6 months or 1 year or something like that. So a temporary injunction essentially can turn into a sort of a permanent or semi-permanent GAG order. Now, if we don't speak about these things when they are happening, if Runwal takes away someone's money, forfeits some people's money, if we can't speak about them as they happen within a meaningful time frame, there is no point about speaking about them or making videos about them 1 year or 2 years later. So that's not how reality works. But this is the nature of the gag order they are seeking and they would like to have. We argued, I provided case laws also. One of the case laws, of course, was my own case law, which is Lodha versus Krishnaraj Rao, where Justice Gautam Patel of Bombay High Court in 2019 April very clearly laid out the grounds and for if gag orders are to be put, then what are the qualifying things. So basically what Gautam Patel said was something like this. He said to say that the emperor wears no clothes cannot be deemed as defamation. The emperor wears no clothes, as you know, is proverbial. There is this story of an emperor who went before his entire all his subjects in his kingdom. He was wearing no clothes at all, but then he was under the illusion that he was wearing very fine clothes, and everybody plays along with his ego, and everyone says, yeah, he's wearing beautiful clothes and so on, until a child says, "Mummy, why is the emperor naked?" So then the spell is broken. People start speaking more truthfully. So this is the meaning of the expression, the emperor wears no clothes. So if someone like Runwal or Lodha does bad work, does work which is questionable in any case, does work which exposes them to the public questioning their conduct, such as taking away people's money, lakhs of rupees, and saying, oh, we are entitled to because it's your booking amount, it's your application money and so on. Just taking away people's money, not giving them anything in return, and bluntly refusing to refund, and then filing cases against people if they want to talk about it on social media, then this is questionable behavior. To injunct against calling questionable behavior, that's calling out questionable behavior, dubious behavior that is at least on the face of it unlawful, cannot, just calling it out cannot be defamatory. So that was the sum and substance of Justice Gautam Patel's order, which is Bombay High Court and which has a sort of a binding effect on any judge in the civil court who seeks to pass interim orders of this kind, interim gag orders. Now, does it mean it can't happen? No, well, judges being judges, court being court, they're also called courts of surprises. So things can happen. But generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, one would expect that Justice Gautam Patel's order will restrain Justice V.D. Kedar from passing any such orders. Another argument, another case law that I provided to Justice Kedar yesterday was the startling case of where this guy, Shashi Tharoor, asked for a gag order against Arnab Goswami, who was calling him out on national television and calling him a murderer and saying that he killed his wife Sunanda Pushkar in the hotel room, and basically this is what he was saying. So Shashi Tharoor says, please gag this man from making such extravagant claims and accusations against me. Now, it's very surprising but very interesting, and for me it's very helpful, that Delhi High Court, Justice Manmohan Singh, said we will not pass any restrictions against Arnab Goswami. Arnab Goswami is free to air whatever he wants against Shashi Tharoor, whatever he wants, but we would advise him to exercise restraint in what he says, because criminal proceedings are in progress. So with this very minimal minor restriction, the judgment was passed that there is no gag order on Arnab Goswami. So this was a very helpful case law for me, and I have tendered a copy of this to the judge yesterday. Case laws, generally speaking, tends to be very wishy-washy and not very distinct and clear. But this is a beautiful case law, nicely written, nicely reasoned, supported by lots of Supreme Court judgments and orders and so on and so forth. So, good case law which we presented, and I want to say thanks to my friend Advocate Sushant Walimbe for sending me this case law. There is also another case law where Dainik Jagaran was seeking to injunct against someone who had filed had said something not so favorable about them. But then again, similar things. The argument being given is that you cannot gag someone on the basis of defamation by presuming that it is going to be defamatory, whatever he says, because you fear it is going to be defamatory. If it is defamatory, then you can punish them. If it is defamatory, then you have judicial remedies against that. So if someone speaks recklessly out of the blue, then you can gag. If he is completely reckless, for example, suppose these guys hadn't come to me. Suppose nobody has come to me and I am just this man on the road who suddenly decides that Runwal is a crook, and I stand up and start shouting that Runwal is a crook, and then I start posting videos that Runwal is a crook. Now that is out of the blue. There is no justification. It's not standing on any factual fabric. Whereas in my case, every video that I make is supported with loads and loads of correspondence, application form. They would have written forfeiture letters to the persons, the flat buyers, and saying that your 70 lakh rupees is forfeited and gone, and you have no further claims and all that kind of thing. And so much correspondence goes into it, and all that correspondence comes to me. I studied it, and in many of the videos I'll actually upload those correspondences. So here the video stands on a fabric, on a very strong fabric of facts. It is supported. It is not loose. It is not reckless. So it is unlikely, it is highly unlikely in the light of all this that the judge will pass a gag order against us. Then there was another reason why I said that they are not entitled to injunction, they are not entitled to protection of the court. And that reason is, see, we are not all on the same. It's very funny to construct a civil case against 4 very different persons who have very different relationships with Horizon Projects. I am a journalist. Runwal has never written to me, never written a direct email to me saying, Krish, don't do this, or Krish, come and talk, or whatever, XYZ. Nothing. No email from them to me. I have never written an email to them. So there is no contact. Forget contract. There is no contact between us. On the other hand, Alwin and Devdas and Rajendra, there are ample amounts of papers, application form, allotment letter, checks have been paid both ways, at least one way. In the case of Devdas and Alwin, they have paid 12 lakh rupees to Runwal, which Runwal has taken. Yesterday, in the course of these arguments, this is one of the things I said to the judge. I said, how can I be on the same footing where not a paisa has passed between us as these guys, where Runwal has taken 12 lakh rupees, and how can they be on the same footing as Rajendra, whom Runwal has refunded 2.8 lakh rupees. He is not refunded. The same kind of grounds, they have not refunded these guys, but they have refunded Rajendra. 2.8 lakhs have been refunded. And not only they have refunded, but they have also entered into a deed of settlement, which they made him sign on stamp paper. And what is very interesting is this deed of settlement, which Rajendra signed in order to get his check, they have not even disclosed it to the court. That deed of settlement, which is very crucial because my video is mentioned there specifically by name. They say basically, Rajendra, you shall make Krishnaraj delete the videos on his channel. Well, he couldn't because he can't get anything deleted from my channel. It's my channel, not his channel. So it's just an unlawful phrase, but they have made him include that. I mean, they have included that and made him sign. So it's ridiculous. And that has been concealed from the court. It has not been revealed. It was not disclosed at any point of time. So, which enabled me to show the judge this document. I sent it to him. I said, why haven't they disclosed it? Now, the expression when someone comes to the court without full disclosure and with some things that they are hiding, it is called coming to the court with dirty hands, or it's coming to the court with unclean hands. So I said this amounts to coming to the court with unclean hands, not having a disclosure, not having full disclosure on all the matters relating to this case is coming to the court with unclean hands. And anybody who comes to the court with unclean hands has not proved his entitlement for the court's protection and an injunction. That is the case with Runwal, with Horizon Projects. There are other things also. Some of the paperwork is not saying Horizon Projects Pvt Ltd. It is saying Runwal Developers. It's saying Runwal Group. Many of the pages don't have a word of Horizon Projects Pvt Ltd. or a word about the name of the project, Runwal My City. I said, how can you rely on these papers? But that apart, unclean hands, where Runwal has clearly gained at least 12 lakh rupees from these two guys, how can he file a case against them asking for them to be gagged? So again, all of this amounts to unclean hands, coming to the court with unclean hands, and this is what I argued with the judge, or rather told the judge. Okay, judge was not very happy with me, let me say that he didn't look very happily at me, or he was kind of irritated. Or that's how it seemed. So when I said, this Runwal has taken 12 lakh rupees from these people, the judge says, that's what you're saying. I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. That's a fact. And it's a fact that these guys haven't denied. So he didn't say anything more. But in the overall demeanor of the judge, he seemed a little irritated by me. Now, irritation can come from various fronts. It could have come from someone else and he was maybe or that's just how he runs his court, that's his style. Fair enough. But there's another thing I want to talk about, and this is about judges in general, not about this particular judge. But these things happen in court. What happens is, everybody is not on an even footing. It's not a level playing field. The playing field is a little slanted. It is skewed. It is against people like me who appear to some extent. To some extent it's against people like me, litigants, parties in person. And it is skewed in favor of senior counsels like PD Gandhy. So for example, PD Gandhy can go off on a rant and he can go on and on talking about something, and judges will listen to him very indulgently. They will keep on listening to him. He keeps on blabbering about, this man is an extortionist and a busybody and how can he say such things? He can go on, and it's complete nonsense. It's dry well. It's crap. A judge should say, hey, listen, that's not, you can't support that. It's judicially not sound. It's not fundamentally sound logic. You could say that. But they get away with saying all kinds of things. They get away with arguing complete nonsense. On the other side, we are not allowed to speak, or it's quite difficult to get a word in. So, it's not a level playing field. Yesterday, what happened to make the matters even worse was, prior to our hearing, there was some elderly gentleman, some advocate. It was a matter regarding some trust and I think trust land or trust property or some such thing. It was that man was standing alone. I don't think there was even the other opponents were present, defendants were present. He went on and on and on, and the judge just listened. Went on for an hour. Went on and on. The judge was visibly bored, but he didn't cut him short. He didn't act impatient. The man was laboring his points. Now, and this is not only this judge, I have seen this happen in Bombay High Court also. So, on the one hand, they have this extreme indulgence towards someone, and one wonders why. On the other hand, they have this way of clamping down on people, litigants, who try to speak, or even perhaps junior advocates who try to speak, and they just clamp down on them, and they're like, we don't have the time to listen to you. Say it briefly. Say it quickly. If you have tendered it in writing, why are you again reiterating it? But so was that elderly gentleman, I'm sure. So this is not a very level playing field. Some of us get a very, very elaborate hearing, and well, some of us don't. And that is so visible. So I'm not saying this in anticipation of an order coming against us or an order coming in our favor. I don't mind one way or another. We are going to fight. We are going to slug it out. So if the slugfest is going to continue, let the judges do their thing. Let Runwal do their thing. And we will do our thing. Judge is a judge. He has his domain. A YouTuber like me is a YouTuber, and we have our domain, and we will do what we can. So basically, I'm not anticipating things one way or another. I hope it comes in our favor, needless to say. But if it has to be a slugfest, and the slugfest has to continue, and we are going to keep punching them in the face, well, we'll keep punching them. That's where it is. But for being a litigant like me, one of the things that I do to safeguard the judge from having too much power is to hand written notes of argument as often as possible. And the reason for tendering written notes of argument to the court is they can't just easily overlook the things. If you just say them, if you just argue them, but you don't give written notes, then the judge can pretend like you didn't say it. Or, he forgot. It's because nothing is being recorded in the court. There may be a CCTV camera, but no stenographer is keeping records. There is no voice recording going on. So a judge can always act like he didn't notice. But if it is there in writing in black and white, then how will a judge pass an order in spite of all that is there in black and white? It can always be an issue, and you can always raise it as an issue, maybe in appeal or at whatever stage. So this is how I try to safeguard our interests. Anyway, friends, so this was, I hope it gives you an idea of how things go in court, how things went, and we are now awaiting the order on 13th September, and I'll be happy to share with you as soon as it comes. I'm Krish the Urban Naxal, your friend. Jai Maharashtra, Jai Hind, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan.